information, and this is a quick video to give you a status of where we stand. Um, so TGP is at the version 3.4, which is the Transaction Gateway Protocol, which basically lays out the signaling messages from the merchant all the way back to the blockchain. Um, so the parts of the puzzle are the merchant page, where the merchant goes to the portal. They basically go to their this merchant.coreprove.com. They can create um, basically a deployment, which is a store, if you will, but it's basically a smart contract. The smart contract holds the funds from the buyer, and it's where the merchant can go to get their funds. So that the two people, the merchant and the buyer, never have to interact with each other, so they don't share each other's wallet. And that way you get this architectural separation where the middle contract is holding the funds, and that's where they both interact with. So they don't get to see all of their information, and it's not shared with each other, even though it's public and on the blockchain. So once they create, the merchant creates the store, then they can create links, which they can then put on their website. So they can create payment links or checkout modals, and we'll be using a checkout modal for this example. But basically, once they create that checkout modal, they'll end up with some code that they can put on their website. And I'll try to make this quick because I don't want this video to get too long. But what I'm going to do here is just show where everything stands. So I'm going to the merchant portal. I'm going to create, or I'm going to click on the link. That sends back a message to my computer. The user client is this extension here, which has now, it's got the direct pay there. So that's directly, so if I wanted to just directly pay someone or use someone's QR code, I could use that. But there's also a new commerce panel. And this basically allows the extension to do all of the things that you'd want to do from a commerce perspective. So you can send payments, you can schedule payments, you can create payment plans, and these things all use the CoreProve infrastructure. So basically this message flow, so that the client here can set up reoccurring payments, and it can use the logic of the computer to basically do things that you can't do today on blockchain. And ultimately, after these things all go through, then the gateway, which is the transaction border controller in our case, basically executes the command, writes the things to the blockchain, and then comes back and it confirms everything. So these things are all done. Now the interesting part that's kind of fallen out of this, and I'm going to try to make this very quick because I don't want to make the video too long. The merchant portal here, which this is the integration portal where they create the merchant, but really if I'm going to do commerce, I don't want to have to go from my wallet and from this computer that I'm working on out to an external website. So this has been built into the extension, which basically interacts directly with the blockchain from the extension. So here's an example. This is the merchant portal, and here you can see the balance of any incoming orders that are in their contract, and any payout things that they've actually accepted where they can withdraw. And so let's just walk through this whole flow from creating an order. The order comes in, the merchant then sees the incoming order, they'll accept it. Once they accept that order, it will move into the status where they can withdraw it from the contract, and then they can withdraw it and they'll receive their funds. And hopefully between the acceptance and the withdrawal, they've delivered whatever product they're supposed to deliver to the buyer. So let's start this out. On the left-hand side here are service workers, which basically show the message from the client, and the message is going to the wallet. And I think this one is the client and this one's the wallet. Yeah, CPW is wallet. So basically these two windows here are just showing these messages as they flow back and forth. So let's just run through this. So as I go to the website, the user's web or the merchant's website, I click on the checkout link, I click pay, and basically this sent back a 402 message. The client sees it and generates this permit approval, and it starts this whole flow, which was shown in that transaction flow back and forth. So with one click, all of these things are happening, and then now this is completed, and this is a complete transaction. So you got a transaction hash and all that good stuff. So that was all the way completed transaction. Now, if I refresh here over in the merchant panel, I see one open order. And so now I've got an incoming order that's come in, and this is all on blockchain. There's nothing basically stored. There's no server running anywhere to hold this information. So now I can go to the incoming order, and with incoming orders, I see the balance here, and I'll accept this. This basically has to do with like fulfillment, but the money now is sitting in the smart contract. Once I accept it and I've signed it and I approve this settlement as the merchant, now these funds now move to the next stage, which is now I can withdraw them. So imagine if I've fulfilled an order and I've delivered the pizza, now I can mark it as delivered or accepted, and now this is all caught up. So if I come back to the main page here for the merchant, now under withdrawal, this order now is available to be withdrawn. So I withdraw it, I get the approve the withdrawal, and now as the merchant, since by the way, in this case I was the merchant and the buyer from the same wallet, so basically this now moved the money back to my wallet, so it's now been received back to me. So I'll stop the video here, and I'll make another one that shows some of the other things that have been added, but this does include zero knowledge proofs. So this here says no zero knowledge proofs because it doesn't really describe the whole flow, but this does have zero knowledge proofs involved. And I'll just see the fast way to show it here. ZK. Yeah, so the ZK capabilities are true. And I know to say that it's got ZK is just, it like brushes over it, but it was a really important and hard to do thing. So, and that's what here at the top on the right hand side, that's what this transaction privacy switch does. This turns on the zero knowledge proof. Okay, so I'll stop the video here and shoot this over to you just so you can see that flow, how that flow works. But that's just like the basic functionality of a buyer deposit and a seller's withdrawal.